Adapted from the Japanese manga Baki the Grappler, Netflix released the Hanma Baki's Son of Ogre TV series. Directed by Toshiki Hirano at TMS Entertainment, the series covers the third part of the manga that was written and illustrated by Keisuke Itagaki. The franchise revolves around fighters, their honor, and their undying urge to fight immensely strong opponents. Needless to say, the series showcases brilliant fighters across various disciplines like Kung Fu, Karate, Kudo, and more. And there's also some sick moves capable of neutralizing or even killing any normal human being. Some of the fighters are so ruthless that they even eat their opponents. Hello everyone, and welcome to another marvelous video where we break down exciting facts from the world of fiction. In this video, we're going to be digging into and exploring the top 10 most disturbing fighters from the Baki Hanma universe. So, without further delay, let's jump into it. Before we get into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Number 1. Yujiro Hanma, aka Ogre. To start with, we have Yujiro Hanma, who is probably one of the most important characters in the series. With a height of 6 feet 2 inches and weighing 265 pounds, Yujiro Hanma is the father of Baki and Jack Hanma and serves as the primary antagonist of the series. As showcased in the manga, at the age of 16, Yujiro went out to war in order to develop his skills as a fighter. He was there during the Bloody Mary bombardment and was one of the 2 survivors. The other was a woman named Jane. Later, when marched down to the ruins of the bombardment, Yujiro attacked General Sam Gary and killed him. He then carved off his skin and placed it over top of his, just to pretend in front of the American army to be semi-conscious. Believing him to be their general, the soldiers carried Yujiro to their headquarters, following which the latter began his rampage, slaughtering the army in the middle of the building. Just when the American army was about to shoot up the building, Jane arrived with explosives and placed them in such a way that when the army started shooting, it would set them off and cause a massive explosion. She led Yujiro through a secret passage through an underground exit, but that was when Yujiro discovered the true identity of Jane. Her real name was Diane Neal, and she was a Canadian spy of the United Nations tasked with handing over Yujiro to the UN army, who was waiting at the other end of the tunnel. Following this, Yujiro raped Diane and went outside to destroy the entire UN army that was waiting for him. There were several sections of the American army that were sent to capture or kill Yujiro, but all of them failed and faced horrific consequences. At some point, Yujiro visited a big and expensive banquet where he met Eiichi Ekizawa and his wife, Emi Akazawa. Emi and Yujiro exchanged glances and realized they had a liking for each other, which was certainly not liked by Eiichi. When Eiichi spilled champagne on Yujiro's suit, he kissed Emi, making Eiichi furious and attacking him. A Brazilian judoka stopped them and volunteered to fight Yujiro for Eiichi, but lost easily. Later, Yujiro broke into Aiichi's house and killed him before Emi's eyes. The two kissed and embraced each other, and Yujiro stated that he wanted Emi to bear him a child. Later, she gave birth to a child who was none other than Baki. Living a life of battle with an undying urge to accumulate power, Yujiro faced several martial artists and almost ended their lives. He later went to Africa and fought several vicious beasts. One such was a giant monstrous African elephant. The event in the animated series on Netflix began when the military was called in to help stop the elephant, which had already killed 41 humans and 977 animals. Finally, Yujiro arrived and killed the elephant with just his bare hands. After that event, he probably became accepted as the most powerful and dangerous man on the planet and was highly revered by the government and the army. In the series, he had invited Baki to fight him, but we are yet to see the outcome after the release of the 3rd season. Yujiro Hanma, aka the Ogre, was a man of several fighting techniques and an unfathomable strength. One such notable technique was the demon face technique, in which Yujiro forcefully flexed his back muscles to form the face of a demon. It increased his physical strength, stamina, and endurance, and allowed him to deliver massive amounts of damage in return. He had first used it to take down Doppo Orochi in the first manga series. Number 2. Pickle. When it comes to disturbing fighters for the Baki Hanma franchise, one cannot omit Pickle, aka the Caveman. Showcased in the 12th episode of Season 1, the character was a prime focus in the 2nd season of Baki Hanma, Son of Ogre. While mining through a saline rock formation, an enormous man was found, along with a T-Rex dinosaur embedded in it. When excavated, the dinosaur was found dead, but not the man. Scientists led by Professor Payne ran several experiments to rejuvenate the man's body and dated the man to be from the Jurassic or the Cretaceous era. After the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs arrived on Earth, it caused a massive dust cloud covering the entire atmosphere and prohibited sunlight from reaching the planet. This caused the temperatures of the Earth to fall drastically, essentially freezing the primitive man and the T-Rex midway between battles. However, the man was perfectly preserved, and the salt environment pickled it, for which the scientists gave him the name Pickle. One of the scientists decides to have a taste of the T-Rex meat, and while no one was there in the lab, he grabs a piece and cooks it. The aroma of the cooked meat awakens Pickle, and he traces it to the scientist's chamber. Upon his arrival, the scientist takes a few shots with his pistol, but the bullets bounce right off. Soon, the army was called, but none could withstand the might of Pickle. However, Pickle was finally calmed down and taken by the military under utmost protection. Meanwhile, all the fighters wanted to take a look at the new warrior and eventually decided to face him. Under the observation of Professor Payne, Pickle remained in a facility, but the problem was he never ate anything. In his era, he ate only after defeating his opponent, and while the scientists brought in wild animals, they all backed off and escaped. Finally, they planned to bring a Siberian tiger before him. There were a lot of controversies as the Siberian tiger was an endangered species, but they had no choice as Pickle was a miracle to the modern world and a priceless specimen. The Siberian tiger charged at Pickle and was easily defeated, killed, and eaten. Meanwhile, Kaio Retsu was growing restless about fighting the primitive man and was the first among the modern-day warriors to face him. Despite all his efforts, he was defeated and almost eaten by Pickle before Professor Payne used sedatives to make him fall asleep. Only a portion of his shoulder and leg were eaten. Next was Katsumi Orochi, the son of Doppo Orochi, who faced him in order to avenge the defeat of Kaio Retsu. The fight was miraculous, but he too was defeated. Jack Hammer, aka Jack Hanma, was next, and also experienced the same fate. Pickle's bone structure and muscle tissue were so strong that none could make him use his complete strength. The fighting style that he developed after fighting dinosaurs was wild, ferocious, and super fast, and none could keep up after he took his abilities up a notch. Baki proved to be the best among them. He pushed the battle so far that Pickle was forced to use all his might. However, when Baki could have easily defeated Pickle, he chose to take the fight with raw stamina, which eventually brought him to his defeat. Towards the end of Season 2, Baki and Pickle were shown to be friends. Number 3. Musashi Miyamoto. Musashi Miyamoto was one of the most ruthless fighters from the Hanma universe, but until now, he's only appeared in the manga. Going by the story, Musashi Miyamoto was once a legend in Japan. He was the greatest samurai in the nation and also in the world, but that was approximately 400 years ago, until Sabuko Tokugawa made the impossible become possible and brought him back to life in the modern era after obtaining some spinal tissue. Sabuko cloned Musashi from the tissue and later, using voodoo magic, infused Musashi's soul into the clone, thus preserving both the memory and experience of the legend in one body. Soon after his revival, Musashi settled in with Tokugawa for a long period of time, during which he challenged and faced several modern-day fighters. Like Pickle, he too was brought into the modern world from the distant past, but was shown to be secluded as a person. Although he preserved a minimal sense of glory, he had no sympathy for his opponents or others whom he maimed or injured. Musashi followed the rules but mocked his opponents during fights. At some point, when an officer challenged him with a gun, he killed him instantly without any hesitation. Musashi was extremely frightening to his opponents, and during his match against Pickle, the latter tried running away out of fear. The warrior had a flair for reclaiming his glory, and he started a bloody campaign, declaring war on all the legends of martial arts, where he fought them ruthlessly. When all of them were defeated one after the other, Tokugawa's sister released his soul from his body. Following this, Musashi's clone body was kept safe in the same lab where he was created. Number 4. Spec. Spec was an escaped American convict and the prime antagonist of the second series of the manga. In his first appearance, he was shown to be escaping from a submarine prison 200 meters off the coast of Florida, USA. Spec was known for sheer brute strength and his urge to take down powerful fighters. After escaping, he killed all the guards stationed at the base and arrived in Tokyo, Japan, in hopes of fighting a worthy opponent. After arriving in Tokyo, he destroyed a civilian car with his bare hands, following which he tracked down Baki. Teenager Baki Hanma had just defeated a group of local thugs in his school courtyard when Spec appeared before him. As Baki turned to shoot Spec, the latter took his gun and shot himself in the jaw to show that bullets had no effect on him. His grip severed Baki's hand, and he soon delivered a devastating kick and slammed Baki onto the ground. Soon cops arrived and handcuffed Spec, which he broke free of easily, but he did surrender to them eventually. Speck was then transported to Tokyo Metropolitan Police Board Detention Center. While the police captain, Morio Sonora, was in a meeting, Speck broke through his cell wall and left prison to get some Chinese food from a local supermarket. He killed the cashier ruthlessly, took his food, and later, when Morio Sonora completed his meeting and went to use the washroom, he found Speck adjacent to the urinal. Out of rage, he kicked Speck in the crotch, which the latter blocked easily. This was enough to scare the life out of the police captain, following which, Speck was shown to be using the jail as his base, moving in and out as he wished. Next, the Special Force Brigade was called in to take down Speck, but he easily slaughtered each and every member of the squad. Tokugawa had announced a tournament in which he stated that any of the 5 convicts would go free if they defeated 5 fighters: Baki Hanma, Kaiu Retsu, Kaoru Hanayama, Dopu Orochi, and Goki Shibukawa. This was enough to excite Speck, who left the jail to go after the fighters. Speck found Baki at a park on a date with Kozue Matsumoto and tried attacking him, only to be stopped by Hanayama. Speck and Hanayama fought a long battle which ended with Hanayama defeating Speck and knocking him unconscious. Speck went into a coma and was transported to a medical facility. Speck was an immensely powerful being and easily considered one of the biggest threats on the planet. His strength was unfathomable, along with his speed and stamina. Interestingly, when Speck was transported to the medical facility, the doctors revealed that his age was 97 and his body shrank soon after he fell into a coma. Number 5. Biscuit Oliva. Weighing 330 pounds and with a height of 6 feet 3 inches, Biscuit Oliva, aka Mr. Unchained, was yet another fighter with unfathomable brute strength. He was an assassin working for the US government and a jailer in the Arizona State Prison. Born in Cuba and migrated to America, Biscuit Oliva was soon a famous mercenary hired by government bodies of different countries to take down malefactors or threats that were too powerful for their forces to deal with. During this time, Speck had caused havoc in the city, and there were 4 other threats just like him. After Speck's defeat, another convict, Dorian, was also arrested, leaving the other 3 to roam scot-free. It was then Biscuit Oliva who was called in to take down the 3 convicts. He did it neatly, following which he earned eternal respect and fear from the entirety of America. He stayed at the Arizona State Prison and enjoyed a luxurious life with the best food and spirits in the world. In Season 1, Episode 1 of the Hanma Baki's Son of Ogre TV series, after Yujiro challenged Baki to a fight, Baki began his training. He soon realized the need for him to fight a real fighter and turned his attention to Biscuit Oliva. Abducting the President of the United States, George Bush, he got himself arrested and transported to Arizona State Prison. He first met John Guevara, also known as Number 2, who soon challenged Biscuit Oliva for the position of Mr. Unchained. Unfortunately, he was defeated, following which Baki began taunting him. Soon the two faced off and Baki managed to defeat Biscuit Oliva after awakening the Demon Face technique. Baki was forced to leave the prison, preserving the title of Mr. Unchained for Biscuit Oliva. Number 6. Jack Hanma. As mentioned earlier, Yujiro Hanma had once raped a Canadian spy named Diane Neal. 9 months later, she gave birth to a child whose name was Jack. The young child grew up with deep hatred for his father and wanted to defeat him. His urge soon turned into an obsession, and he went through extreme amounts of training, which eventually had a harmful effect on his muscles. However, despite all the hard work and training, Jack realized that he would never be able to defeat his father until he met a scientist named Dr. John. The scientist provided him with a unique drug known as X4, which eventually granted him enormous strength and durability. Jack eventually became addicted to the drug and began overdosing himself without giving a second thought about its harmful effects on his body. Taking the name Jack Hammer to hide his identity, he participated in the Maximum Tournament in the underground arena, where Baki was also one of the contestants. Jack faced formidable warriors in each of his rounds, but emerged victorious with his brute strength and bizarre fighting techniques. He often bit his opponents, tearing off their body parts and neutralizing. In the final round, when he faced Baki, he had already revealed his identity. It was a vicious fight, but Jack's body began showing signs of a drug overdose. He began vomiting in the arena, but still carried on with the fight. Toward the end of the fight, Baki emerged victorious. However, that was it for Jack, as he then took up a fight with his father, Yujiro Hanma, and was easily defeated with a quick blow. Jack appeared in the Netflix TV series as well. In the second season, when Pickle was being challenged by several martial artists, Jack snuck in to fight with him. The fight was one of the most vicious, with Jack showing promise initially. The two savage fighters began by biting each other's faces, ending with Pickle tearing off his jaw. As the fight continued, Jack delivered devastating blows to Pickle, eventually biting his ear off. Eventually, Eventually, an enraged Pickle knocked down Jack with his final blow, rendering him unconscious. However, that wasn't it. Jack was still dangerous in his unconscious state. As Pickle approached to eat him, he stopped and took steps backwards out of fear. It was revealed that Jack had trained his cells to deliver one final blow in the ear to the brain of any who tried to attack him while unconscious. Jack was then taken to the hospital, and the moment he got back to his senses, he once again rushed to the arena to fight Pickle. He lost again, following which Pickle took him and kept him someplace so that he could be eaten later. Jack was rescued and once again taken into the hospital. Regaining his senses, he once again thought of seeking his revenge from Pickle, but was stopped by Baki explaining to him that he had been defeated. Number 7. Kaio Kaku. Kaio Kaku was the renowned Supreme Grand Master of Chinese Kenpo. Kaio, in his youth, was a proud and arrogant man who believed himself to be the strongest man in Asia, capable of taking down any opponent who came before him. He also considered Chinese martial arts to be a joke, and continued living with his belief that the strong would always defeat the weak. He fought several strong fighters and even wild animals and defeated them. However, his notions changed after he faced an elderly Chinese martial arts master who defeated him easily. Since then, he gave up on his strength training and began learning martial arts and the philosophy of Chinese Kenpo. After years of training, he finally mastered the art and became the Supreme Grand Master of Chinese martial arts. Kaku is the current champion of the Rai Tai tournament and has been for a century, and also represented the Chinese team as their captain in the tournament. He even faced Yujiro and showed phenomenal capabilities until the latter was forced to use his demon face technique to defeat him. In the tournament, Kaku faked his death and promised Yujiro to fight again someday. In the Netflix TV show, Kaku was shown in Season 2, where he taught Katsumi Orochi the art of imagining as many joints as the user wanted while delivering a super fast punch. Number 8. Katsumi Orochi. Katsumi Orochi, also known as Lethal Weapon, will also be taking his place on our list today. At the age of 5, Katsumi worked in a circus. He possessed spectacular physical abilities and strength. Katsumi was adopted by Doppo and Natsui Orochi after his father was eaten by a lion in the circus. Following this, Katsumi grew up with Doppo, who trained him in karate. Katsumi eventually emerged as one of the finest karate fighters. Doppo made him the chairman of his karate school, Shinshinkai Karate. In the Netflix show, when Pickle became a sensation to all the fighters, he too was one of the people who snuck into a highly secured area to take a glimpse of the fighter. After Retsu was defeated by Pickle, Katsumi was the next to challenge him. Katsumi fought tremendously well, delivering blows faster than the speed of Mach 3. Pickle barely managed to cope with such tremendous blows, but it all came to an end after Katsumi's fists and feet were damaged due to the blows. Moving at Mach 3 attracts high amounts of air friction, and it damaged Katsumi's wrists and feet to such an extent that he was no longer able to deliver attacks. He accepted his defeat and offered himself to be eaten by Pickle, but the latter left the rink and did not eat him. Number 9. Kaiu Retsu. Kaiu Retsu was yet another renowned martial artist and a friend of Katsumi Orochi. His specialization was in the discipline of Kung Fu. The majority of his early training took place in the Beilin Temple, where he was given the name Shaoran Retsu. When Retsu met Katsumi, they argued about which style of fighting was superior, karate or Kung Fu. Retsu was the first one to face Pickle when he arrived. He willingly offered himself to be eaten after his defeat. During the fight, Retsu showcased great skills, but it was futile against the brute strength of Pickle. Midway through the fight, Retsu gave up his technique and began using brute strength as well, but that was when he realized the importance of Kung Fu in his life and took back his form. Pickle even bit a part off of his shoulder, but that too was not enough to dampen the spirits of the warrior. However, he was defeated and a leg was eaten. Pickle would have devoured him completely if Professor Payne hadn't shown up and tranquilized him. Since then, Retsu has used a peg leg instead of his lost leg. Number 10. Doppo Orochi. Last but not least, we have Doppo Orochi, the adopted father of Katsumi Orochi. He was a 10th Dan Karate Grandmaster and founder of the Shinshinkai Karate School. When Spec brought his chaos to Tokyo, the police had to deal with 4 more convicts equally as dangerous as him. When Hanayama took care of Spec, Doppo Orochi faced and took Dorian, who was also one of the convicts. Tokugawa's house, Dorian entered with gasoline to set the entire house on fire. However, his adopted son Katsumi entered and stopped Dorian by setting setting his body on fire. He had also brought another fighter, Kiyosumi Kato, who fought alongside him and lunged at Dorian. Dorian subdued the two of them with his special wire and was about to kill them before Doppo stopped him. While Doppo scolded the two for deviating from the path of a true karate fighter, Dorian threw a grenade, causing an explosion at Tokugawa's house. Doppo later faced Dorian, and the battle ended with Dorian being defeated and arrested by the police. Marvelous verdict. So we've finally come to the end of our video, and we hope you enjoyed the content. Baki Hanma showcased numerous phenomenal fighters with exquisite skill sets, and we hope to see them in the upcoming seasons of Baki Hanma, Son of Ogre on Netflix. With that, we'll be concluding this video, but stay tuned for the next marvelous video. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.